Got it.
Okay, I really hope this works.
It works. It works well. You'll
Okay,
get like a video, you'll get a link back to you, and then you just download it. It works.
okay, beautiful. Okay, so the question that we are, or the topic that we are discussing today is decolonization in design. So I did just had some questions here that I had ready
A
for you
hard
that have
topic.
been, yeah, I know it's definitely one of the ones that I found more difficult to navigate. So that's why I'm interested to hear what you have to say today. But yeah, I know other students had like some, designing with nature or something that I've studied before. This one I haven't really approached, so it was
But it
more difficult.
relates.
Sorry?
But it relates.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
So, I had some feedback about my questions from Professor Isaac, and she mentioned that because you're a Métis architect, you're very familiar with this topic. So I won't really start with asking you, what do you think when you hear the phrase, unless you had maybe something that you might wanted to add to that question, like if you, when I were would say decolonization in design, um, what would be the first things that you would kind of think about when you would hear this phrase?
Um, so when I think about this phrase, decolonizing design, I think it's a question about decolonizing yourself prior to thinking about it as an action that's just focused on design. It's about sort of cultivating a sense of awareness, and that awareness is stemmed from the land we're on, nature, and also, you mentioned that what you could seek is sort of that creative aspect, that drawing. And I think it's about accessing that true potential inside yourself. And if you look at even the term reconciliation, it means, or indigenous, it
Mm,
means innate. And so it's actually trying to navigate in a spiritual sense your pure self so that whatever you put out into the world becomes this really nice, honest way rather than being controlled and adapted by colonial thought and thinkers. And, I think it's got us into a huge mess in this world, as, seems to be your interest in looking at sustainability. And we need a cultural shift and a paradigm shift. And I think it starts from, a look inward so we can apply a new way outward. And it becomes sort of this way, two-eyed seeing almost by analyzing what is what are the gifts for the Western world has given us, but what are the gifts, sort of more traditional ways of thinking and being connected to the land means, and sort of how do they come together to create sort of this new path.
okay, thank you. The next question was we were interested in hearing any previous projects of yours that have incorporated this concept.
Ooh, that's what I'm thriving
A
to do right
toughie.
now. Yeah, it's hard. I think, one one like it's more of a I'll give the example sort of more of a school project, I guess. And so in our design studio, um, last year we had combined Professor Lancelot Core and mine. It's a ED4, a fourth year design studio, and we're working with an indigenous community up north. But to get started, we were discussing this way about like how do we begin to get that innate knowledge and what we want to do. So we sort of designed this exercise, and we came out to the forest. So I live in Kenora, Ontario, and there's 80 acres of forest here that we have as property. So all the students came out. We stayed at Rushing River. We had material. We had, I think 75 little skinny poplar trees. But then we also had the knowledge keeper from this area. And so I think what we did was, we feasted the site, we honored the site, we gave the site gifts, right? And instilling that really it's about a revive of habits we have when we go onto the land. And so it's about giving the land respect. It's about analyzing that we're not separate from it, we are it,
Mhm.
and doing sort of treating design as more of a ceremony. And so we listened to the knowledge keeper talk. We had a feast. We offered the site um, food. There's a wolf that's around, and so we left meat for the wolf. We gave it a little basket of whatever we feasted, and we also offered this site tobacco. And that ultimately, whether the stories, if you even if you didn't determine that that's not a meaningful activity, it actually is, because it still made you have a relationship, even if you don't believe in that spirituality. So it's about gift giving and acknowledging that whatever we act onto this site, we always have to have the question, what are we giving back? And so through that endeavor, we basically um, went onto the site after that ceremony, and we allowed ourselves to kind of play with those poplar trees, and then we just sort of built this structure around it. And then we showed the knowledge keeper after, and he there's all these crazy stories that happen above, but basically he said that we created for him, we created this shelter that looked like it would be for Sabe, and Sabe is a Sasquatch, and it's like an Anishinaabe myth. And so it just became all this sort of meaning, and the architecture was more about becoming a part of the narrative rather than looking at things as just the object. And so I think that's the key thing to pull out, is to not see the world as objects, but to seeing how the things that we make can be a part of the story. And I think that that would go back to the first question too, about what it
Yeah,
means to colonize design.
exactly. You don't call that the forest school, did you? I think I know somebody. Her name is I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Her first name's Rihanna.
Morasti?
Yes, yeah. I was
Yeah, so
talking to
she
her.
was my thesis student.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's really really amazing. And
Mm,
yeah, so she started a student association, Indigenous Student
hmm.
Association.
Yes.
Yeah, and so we work a lot together, and we're developing a land-based education center to explore these ideas.
Awesome. Okay, so the next question. Doo-doo-doo. So we performed a case study within our project on the Bald Eagle Lodge that is on campus. Are you familiar with that
I
building at
am
all?
familiar with it. I've been there.
Yeah,
I'm not an expert to answer too many questions about that,
yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, no worries. If you were familiar with it, we were wondering if this was a project that perhaps you thought incorporated decolonial ideas, but if you're not familiar with it, that's
I
totally
can give
okay.
you a short answer, and I would
Yeah,
say
of
yes. I
course.
think that the whole thing is based on narratives, and it's sort of centered around the notions of where it situates itself in Manitoba.
Hmm.
The entranceway is a narrative. Every when you go in, there's a colonnade series that actually talks about that entrance. And you enter on the east, which is traditional, and when you go in it, you're supposed to, follow the sun directions as you move around it. So there are aspects of how you move and how it appears that is connected to a particular place. And so that's, I think, how it would be the most. I know the designer who did a lot of those ideas. If you ever wanted to reach out, I could send you his contact information. It is David Thomas.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. So, the next question, this is our final question. Are there any suggestions that you might have to us as beginning designers to incorporate this concept into our current design that we're working on?
Yeah, so the first step always is, I'm going to go back to sort of what I was talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
before, and that's recognizing the gifts that you offer to the world and allowing those gifts to come out into your design, because I think that's what it means to be, to sort of as a way to start decolonizing. And just from that mindset and from that space, whatever you make is going to be honest and pure, right? And I also think that always ask the question, you know, what are you giving back? In every design move that you make, what are you giving back? And that can be as far in terms of a narrative, sustainability, right? I think the earth offers us all these incredible gifts and we say we accept them, but we don't. And so, just like you're talking about the wind on your house today, how do buildings begin to accept that gift? Maybe power a home, right? There's all of this different ways to look at it. And I think when you're designing, it's really important to also understand and know that place in a very sort of intimate way.
Perfect. Okay, so that was our final question. So I am just
That
going to
was it.
stop the recording. That was it. That
Hey,
was all.
that's
All
hilarious.
right.